What's up, guys? DJ here at Top Deck Cards and Games, and today I've got the Pendulum deck profile that I told you guys about in the last video. I've worked a lot on the deck, actually. I think it's really sweet. I've had a ton of fun playing with it, and I'm excited to see where it evolves with Shining Victories. Let's just get into the list, though. First off, we have 3 copies of Archfiend Eccentric. One of the more key cards to dealing with Solemn Strike or with Domain Lock, because that's part of the format, and it's incredibly fun to play with or against, or something. So yeah, I mean, as much as I hate playing cards like this, it's just so key to deal with some of the, the difficulties for this deck. The main issue with this deck actually is just beating Solemn Strike. So once you can achieve that, you can beat pretty much anything, and Eccentric is just one of the best cards for setting that up, as well as enabling Rescue Hamster. We also have 3 copies of Magical Abductor. Abductor can help find things like Archfiend, Luster, anything we need, as well as just giving us more cards to play with. In general, if you're trying to beat trap cards, the best way to do it is to just kind of amass more cards to play through them. So that's what she does, and she does a damn good job of it. We also have 3 copies of Rescue Hamster, like I mentioned before. Hamster's just one of the most powerful cards in the deck. It was actually I don't want to say overlooked, because I just don't actually think it was any good. Prior to this list, I think that the best versions of the deck didn't need to play cards like Rescue Hamster before, but with the amount of nerfs this deck continues to take, it needs a little bit of an extra boost, so having a normal summon that puts a guy into your extra deck for you to Pendulum back and then gives you 2 more monsters to play with is actually just really strong. Then we have our Performance Files. We have 3 copies of Pendulum Sorcerer. Not a lot to say about this card, it's just as insane as it was like 2 months ago, right? Then I'm playing 2 copies of Silverclaw, actually. Silverclaw is an interesting choice, I guess, because you don't really need 2 of them for anything. It is a great beater. It's a fine scale to play in the first place. It's the ideal scale for you to just play up and then pop with your Joker, or Sorcerer. I don't know names of cards sometimes. Since it gives you an extra rank 4 in your extra, or level 4 in your extra deck at that point, so you don't lose anything by playing this guy and popping it, and you also don't brick by having like a bunch of copies of it, since they're always rank 4 monsters or level 4 monsters. I don't know why I can't talk, guys. We're also using Beast Eyes in our extra deck, and this guy's a beast, so that can actually be pretty key sometimes. Then I'm playing 1 copy each of Lizard Draw and Guitardle. This is because we're playing Ignite Reload, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but basically, between Magical Abductor and Ignite Reload, these cards both get extremely clunky, since you don't really get anywhere from putting these guys up in your Pendulum scale with Abductor. They're just high scaled, which is fine, but you don't get to use either of their effects ever, and if you played Ignite Reload, you can't use the draw effects on either of them that turn either. So their value is pretty diminished in those situations. However, you still want to be able to search them up with Sorcerer after you make your play, so you can set up for next turn. Then we have the broken ones. We have Joker and Monkey Board. They're, again, just as broken as they were a month ago. We're also playing a copy of Rescue Rabbit to go with our normal monsters. The rescue cards are pretty good. I am so jealous of Japan for getting to play with a bunch of these while we have to make use of 1. Our normals are 3 Master and 3 Vector. Vector kind of sucks, but you need to play more normal monsters. I wanted to play Vector to play Draco Face-Off anyway, and the only other consideration was playing Flash Knight, because it gives us some value off of Brilliant Fusion and Painful Decision, being able to search a high scale. But it hasn't been extremely relevant, and the plus side of Vector being able to make Beast Eyes is pretty real. Master is just really the best card in the deck. A lot of your good turns will involve getting 2 or 3 of these cards between your graveyard and extra deck, pendulum them out, making a bunch of Dinosters, stuff like that. Just, while being an incredibly average card on its own, it's somehow one of the best cards in the deck because of the way your extra deck works. And then we have Luster. I mean, same thing. He's broken, he makes Ignister. And 1 Gem Knight Lazuli. This guy instead of Garnet, for those of you who don't know, because you can Brilliant Fusion these 2 to your graveyard, then with Lazuli's effect, get the Master back to your hand. So it lets your Brilliant Fusion generate an extra card for you to play with, as well as an extra summon. Going on to spells, we have 3 copies of Instant Fusion. I already mentioned that playing through your opponent's Solemn Strikes is basically the biggest challenge this deck has. Instant Fusion does that better than most other cards, really, since it forces your opponent to play it, or you're going to kind of just take the board over right away by making a rank 4. It also has a lot of just cool applications with, like, Painful Decisioning a Master to your graveyard, then you can get it back with Nodin, and you're able to make a Dinoster before you Pendulum Summon and fill up your extra deck. Next, we have 3 copies of Brilliant Fusion. I'm going to beat the dead horse a lot on this one, just talk about how having more summons and stuff is the way you beat trap cards. Because Brilliant Fusion gives us another way to do that. It's going to let us summon an extra time, which means we can make rank 4 prior to summon or Pendulum summoning, which again is just going to let us clear our opponent's back rows and play through whatever crap they have. 3 Painful Decisions, because Master is one of the best cards in the deck. Painful Decision is kind of bricky sometimes. All these cards are kind of bricky sometimes, these spells, but in general, the payoff's worth it, and the percentage of the time you're going to draw multiples of them is low enough that it doesn't matter that much. Painful Decision is just such a key card for enabling Instant Fusion, enabling your Dinosters, setting up your Rescue Hamsters by letting you get a Master and pop itself. It's just too key to not play 3 of. Additionally, this card is also, as well as Brilliant Fusion actually, both these cards are great for setting up Magical Abductor since you get the activation when you play them, then you get to search out a Master, which you can put into your Pendulum Scale for a second counter on Magical Abductor and then pop it, so you just need to play 1 extra spell, which, you know, in a perfect world is your high scale in your set, so you get to search whatever you wanted. Additionally, to help with Abductor and fix some of the dead hands full of normal monsters or multiple rescue hamsters so you wouldn't be able to resolve Hamster, we have 2 copies of Ignite Reload in the deck. Ignite Reload is okay. It's something that I got from OCG lists, not to try to, you know, act like it was some kind of big idea. You also just saw Jeff Jones top with it a week ago in Magician Pendulum. It's a pretty good card. I mean, it's always going to go even. It's not like you're giving cards up. It's a spell card that you get to play for basically no loss to set up Abductor, and it gets extra copies of Master, or Vector, or Hamster out of your hand so that you're able to search out the copies you need with Painful Decision, etc. As well as just dealing with hands that have like 2 eccentric Archfiends. Like you can't use 2 of them in a turn, so I mean you can use 1 on field and 1 in the Pendulum Scale, I guess, but you're going to use the same one for that, so yeah. Just fixes a lot of dead hands as well as making Abductor a little bit better. We also have an Upstart Goblin. It's a combo deck. I mean, you do only have one of them, but between the synergy with Abductor and the desire to find cards like our 1 copy of Draco Face Off, it doesn't make sense to not include Upstart in your deck. It's just too good. Going to the extra deck, no trap cards. So this deck is always trying to go second and always just trying to break what your opponent has. There's just not really space to play trap cards. It makes the deck too clunky. You can't afford to play at a -1 when you're already trying to play through multiple back rows against like PK Burning Abyss. The Trapless Burning Abyss matchup is very good. They don't play back rows, and what you do is just inherently more powerful than what they do. And against Cosmo, like kind of the same thing. Like what you do is better than what they do, so as long as you can beat Solemn Strike, you're going to win that matchup too. So the only matchup that's actually been difficult with the deck so far has been the PKBA deck, since they just have so many trap cards, and it's very hard to hit their strikes with your eccentrics because they get to search out all their Fog Blades and crap. For the extra deck, we have 3 copies of Dinoster. Dinoster is the meat and potatoes of this deck, really. Like, you're going to try to summon Dinoster before you Pendulum, since that gives you a Dinoster in play, and then you get to bring the materials back with your Pendulum summon. So you have a fairly filled board at relatively low opportunity cost. The only risk there is running out of Dinosters, which doesn't matter. We're playing 3 of them. We also have a copy of Beast Eyes, which functions kind of as Dinoster number 4, but he also has a lot more attack for clearing problem cards. He's a 3K beater, so it can clear a lot of the difficult gaps in the format, as well as crashing with like a Dark Destroyer or something. And same thing, it just floats in your extra deck. Seraphinite, Node to go with our fusion spells. Ignister because he's broken. Number 38, I've played a ton of different rank 8s in this deck to try. Ultimately, it worked out that the ability to crash a Dweller, activate it, and then have this guy go up to 4,700 was just too useful to pass up, so he ended up being the best one and got the nod. I have number S39 in regular Utopia. The Utopia package is also a little bit too good to pass up. Diamond's Ire, Castell, Dweller, Emerald, and Magister. 2 Magister would have been nice. There's just no way to fit it, really. Emerald is absolutely necessary at this point. You can't afford to have something happen to your Ignister and lose it. It makes it a little more acceptable that we only have 1 copy of some of these cards that I would like 2 of, like this guy and this guy. And in a lot of awkward situations, the 1800 coupled with the Reborn and Normal Monster effect is the damage you need to push game through. So it's just too good of a card to pass up in this deck, which is awkward because in a lot of past versions I've cut my Emerald. The only other thing that's not in here that I would have liked is, where did I put that guy? Is Utopia Prime. There just wasn't space to get him in, even though this card can just absolutely turn games around. So, I mean, if you're feeling frisky, you could play without one of your Dinosters or without Beast Eyes. But then you're going to have to make a couple other changes, though. Playing without Beast Eyes would make me feel a little better about cutting Vectors. So, there's that. But yeah, the extra deck is pretty tight. I mean, all of these cards are basically mandatory in my eyes, so I don't know what you would want to change with it. But yeah, there's the Pendulum deck. Like I said, I have some friends playing it at a regional this weekend. I'm hoping they do pretty well with it. You know, if somebody did, maybe they'll do like a deck profile or a tournament report on the channel. Hopefully somebody top 8s. So thanks for watching, guys. In the future, the deck profiles are going to be shiny victories, so you guys can get hyped for that. Let me know down below what you think about Pendulums coming up with the new cards. I'm pretty excited to play the Odd Eyes support. I think the Unicorn's going to really make the deck a lot better. So other than that, we'll see what happens. I'm just excited to start brewing. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys soon.